The courtroom was tense, almost suffocating. The boy stood up, his eyes filled with determination, gripping his younger brother's hand tightly before speaking words that left everyone in stunned silence. No one could have predicted that, after years of living in a foster home, this boy would say something so shocking in court. What made this once shy and quiet child stand up and take control of his and his brother's fate? Is the foster family truly the best place for him? Or is there an unexpected secret that will change everything? Follow this emotional story until the very end to uncover the shocking truth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss more inspiring stories like this one. Sarah Anderson had never imagined that one decision would change her life forever. It all started on a rainy evening when she received a call from the foster care agency. A 3-year-old boy named Jacob had just been removed from an unstable home and needed immediate placement. Sarah, who had been a foster mother for several years, hesitated for a moment. She had already cared for several children, each with their own struggles, but something about this case felt different. When she arrived at the agency, she found a small boy curled up in a chair, clutching a worn-out teddy bear. His dark brown eyes were filled with fear and confusion. He did not speak a word as she knelt down and gently introduced herself. With slow, hesitant movements, he reached for her hand. That night, Sarah tucked him into a warm bed, reassuring him that he was safe. But Jacob did not sleep. Every sound made him flinch, and every movement in the house made him grip his teddy bear tighter. Sarah stayed up with him, humming softly, hoping that her presence alone could offer him some comfort. Over the next few weeks, Jacob remained distant. He refused to eat at the dinner table, preferring instead to sit in a corner and pick at his food. He did not play with the other foster children Sarah was caring for, nor did he speak unless absolutely necessary. But Sarah was patient. She learned that he loved to draw, so she filled his room with crayons and sketchbooks. She discovered that he liked the sound of rain, so she would sit with him by the window during storms, holding his tiny hand as they watched the raindrops race down the glass. Slowly, Jacob started to trust her. One evening, as Sarah was cleaning up after dinner, she heard a soft voice behind her. It was barely audible, but it made her heart stop. "Can I help?" She turned to find Jacob standing in the doorway, looking unsure of himself. It was the first time he had willingly approached her. Overwhelmed with emotion, she handed him a small towel and let him dry the dishes. It was a simple act, but for Jacob, it was monumental. As months passed, their bond grew stronger. Sarah took Jacob to parks, museums, and even a beach trip where he laughed for the first time. It was a sound so pure and joyful that Sarah found herself fighting back tears. She realized then that she loved him, not just as a foster child, but as a son. However, there was one thing that haunted her. Jacob had an older brother, Daniel, who had been placed in another foster home. Every night before going to sleep, Jacob would whisper his brother's name. He never asked to see him, but the longing in his eyes was unmistakable. Sarah knew she had to do something. She contacted the foster agency repeatedly, requesting visits between the two boys. It took months of effort, but finally a meeting was arranged. The day Jacob and Daniel saw each other again was unforgettable. The moment Jacob spotted his brother at the park, he froze. Then, in a burst of emotion, he ran as fast as his little legs could carry him. Daniel, who was only 10 but seemed so much older, dropped to his knees and embraced his younger brother tightly. Neither of them spoke, but they did not need to. Their tears said everything. Sarah watched from a distance, her heart swelling with emotion. She knew then that she could not separate them. That night, as Jacob lay in bed, he turned to Sarah and whispered something that sent chills down her spine. "Will you be our mom?" Sarah sat in silence, tears welling in her eyes. She had never planned to adopt, believing that her role was to provide temporary care for children in need. But looking at Jacob, she knew her heart had already made the decision for her. She needed to adopt both of them. What Sarah did not know was that her biggest challenge was yet to come. Would the court allow her to adopt both boys, or would they be forced apart once again? The answer lay in the upcoming adoption hearing, where an unexpected turn of events would change everything. Sarah had no idea that her decision to adopt both Jacob and Daniel would lead her into a legal battle filled with tension and challenges. In the days following Jacob's heartfelt plea, she began the legal process with unwavering determination, but nothing could have prepared her for the obstacles she was about to face. The child welfare system was not quick to approve an adoption of two brothers from separate foster homes, especially since Daniel had been living with his foster family for 3 years. Officials argued that moving him to a new environment could negatively impact his emotional well-being, but Sarah knew the truth. She had seen the longing in Jacob's eyes every time he spoke about his older brother. She couldn't let them be separated again. The legal battle dragged on for months, filled with endless meetings with social workers, attorneys, and court hearings. Daniel, too, was drawn into the fight as he began expressing his own desire to live with his younger brother. He no longer wanted to stay with his foster family, not because they weren't kind to him, but because deep down he knew where he belonged with Jacob. Every time they met, the brothers whispered secret plans about their future, imagining a home where they could wake up each morning knowing they would never be apart again. Their connection was undeniable. But not everyone supported Sarah's decision. Some questioned whether she could care for both boys. Her income, her single status, and even the fact that she had never planned to adopt were all scrutinized. Doubt surrounded her, but she refused to back down. She gathered every possible piece of evidence to prove that love and stability mattered more than paperwork. She demonstrated that she could provide for both boys, that she had created a loving home, and that separating them again would only cause more harm. However, her greatest challenge came from Daniel's current foster family. They did not want to let him go. They had raised him for 3 years and had come to love him as their own. They truly believed that Daniel would be better off staying with them, arguing that a move to a new family would confuse and hurt him. They fought hard, presenting arguments that the transition would be too disruptive, that Sarah lacked experience raising 2 children at once. The battle was no longer just legal, it became an emotional and ethical struggle. Sarah lost countless nights of sleep leading up to the final hearing. She feared that despite all her efforts, she might lose Daniel forever, and worse, she knew what it would do to Jacob. She had seen the light in his eyes when he talked about his brother. If the court ruled against her, that light might disappear forever, but she also understood that Daniel's foster family loved him and wanted what was best for him. All she could do was hope that the court would see the truth, that family's not just about blood, but about where the heart belongs. The final court hearing arrived faster than Sarah expected. She walked into the courtroom with clenched hands, trying to stay composed. Jacob sat beside her, his eyes scanning the room for his brother. Across the courtroom, Daniel sat with his foster family, but his gaze never left Jacob. As the hearing began, Sarah's lawyer presented every piece of evidence, the reports of Jacob's progress since living with her, letters from his teacher's, photos of the joyful moments between the 2 brothers. Daniel's foster family made their case as well, emphasizing that uprooting him might destabilize his life. The arguments went on for hours, but the most pivotal moment came when the judge asked Daniel to speak. The room fell silent as the 10-year-old stood up, his small hands gripping the hem of his shirt. He turned to the judge, then to Sarah and Jacob. His voice trembled but held firm. "I love my foster family, but I love my brother more. We've been apart for too long. I can't imagine living another day not knowing if I'll see my brother every morning when I wake up. I want to be with Jacob. I want Sarah to be our mom." The room remained silent. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. Daniel's foster family lowered their heads. Sadness and understanding mixed in their expressions. The judge was quiet for a moment before finally speaking. After reviewing all evidence and considering the wishes of those involved, the court has determined that Daniel's best interest is to live with his brother. Custody will be granted to Ms. Sarah Anderson. The next few seconds erupted in emotion. Jacob jumped from his chair, running toward his brother and throwing his arms around him. Sarah knelt, wrapping both boys in her embrace, tears spilling down her cheeks. Daniel's foster family stepped forward, offering him a final hug, wishing him happiness. Sarah knew this was not a victory, but a compromise between love and sacrifice. As they walked out of the courthouse hand in hand, Sarah realized she had created something miraculous. Their family was now legally recognized, but more importantly, it was confirmed by their hearts. From this day forward, they would never be separated again, but this was just the beginning of Sarah's true journey as a mother. No matter what challenges lay ahead, she knew they would overcome them together because they had each other. The weeks following the court decision were filled with an overwhelming mix of emotions. For Sarah, the relief of finally bringing both Jacob and Daniel home was accompanied by a deep sense of responsibility. She had fought tirelessly for this moment, But now the real journey was beginning. The transition was not as smooth as she had hoped. Daniel, despite his strong desire to be with Jacob, struggled with the change. He missed his foster family, the only home he had truly known for the past 3 years. Some nights he would sit quietly by the window, staring into the darkness, lost in thoughts he did not yet have the words to express. Sarah understood that love alone would not erase the emotional scars of the past. She gave him space, letting him adjust at his own pace, while ensuring he knew he was never alone. Jacob, on the other hand, was thriving in ways Sarah had never seen before. Having his brother beside him gave him a new kind of confidence. He no longer feared waking up in a home where his family might disappear. He was more talkative at school, more engaged in activities, and for the first time he had the freedom to be a child, without the looming fear of separation. Their bond was undeniable. Every morning they raced down the stairs for breakfast, and every evening they curled up on the couch watching old cartoons together. Jacob had always carried the weight of uncertainty on his small shoulders, but now that burden had been lifted. Sarah knew, however, that their story was far from over. Raising two children, both with different experiences of loss, required patience and understanding beyond what she had ever imagined. Daniel was cautious around her, polite but distant. He accepted her care, but hesitated to fully embrace her as his mother. One evening, as she tucked them into bed, she hesitated at Daniel's door. He was lying awake, staring at the ceiling. She stepped inside and sat beside him. "You miss them," she said gently. Daniel nodded but did not speak. Sarah took a deep breath. "Loving them does not mean you love us any less. You do not have to choose Daniel. You will always have a place in our home, and you will always have a place in your heart for them." His small voice broke the silence. "What if they forget me?" Sarah's chest ached at the pain in his words. "They will not," she assured him. "Love does not work that way. And even if things change, even if time moves forward, you will always have Jacob. You will always have me." For the first time since coming home, Daniel reached out, wrapping his arms around her in a tentative hug. Sarah held him close, realizing this was the moment she had been waiting for. It was not a grand declaration of love or an instant connection, but it was trust, a fragile, precious trust that had finally begun to form. Over the months that followed, their home grew warmer, filled with laughter and new memories. Sarah encouraged the boys to stay connected with people from their past, arranging visits with Daniel's former foster family and ensuring he never felt like he had to leave behind the life he had before. Slowly, the hesitation in Daniel's eyes faded. He started calling her mom without thinking about it, started running into her arms when he was excited or upset. The transformation was subtle but powerful. 1 year after the adoption was finalized, Sarah sat at the dinner table watching the boys argue over who got the last slice of pizza, their voices filled with playful laughter. She realized that the family she had fought so hard to build was now stronger than she had ever dreamed possible. Looking back, she thought about everything they had been through, the uncertainty, the fear, the battles in court. She had questioned herself, had wondered if she was doing the right thing. But now, watching her sons be brothers in the truest sense of the word, she knew she had made the right choice. Family is not just about blood. It is about love, commitment, and the willingness to stand by each other even in the most difficult moments. It is about choosing to fight for one another, to be there when it matters most. What would you have done in Sarah's place? Do you believe that love and dedication can truly create a family even when the odds are against it? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories of love, resilience, and hope.